Have you ever noticed an itch that just won't go away and thought, it's probably nothing? Maybe it was on your back, or your arms, or even your scalp. You scratch and scratch again, but it keeps coming back. Now here's the thing. What if I told you that itch could actually be your body trying to tell you something much deeper? I know it sounds a bit dramatic, but trust me, after 60, even small symptoms like this can carry big messages. And I'm not here to scare you. In fact, I'm here to help you tune in to your body's signals so you can stay healthy, strong, and independent for many more years to come. As we age, our bodies become a little less subtle about what they need. You might find that you're more sensitive to certain foods, that your sleep changes, or that you experience things like dry skin or little aches and pains that never used to be there. But here's the good news. Studies show that being aware of these signs and acting on them early can make a real difference. For example, research from the Mayo Clinic suggests that early detection of underlying issues through seemingly small symptoms, like persistent itching, can lead to faster treatment and better outcomes, especially when it comes to things like liver disease, kidney problems, or even certain types of cancer. So in today's video, we're going to explore 5 itchy spots on the body that may reveal serious health problems after 60. And trust me, you'll want to stay until the end, because the last one might surprise you the most. But first, a quick disclaimer because your health is personal and important. This video is for informational purposes only and is based on publicly available research. Everyone's health is different, so always consult your doctor or a qualified healthcare provider before making any changes to your lifestyle, diet, or exercise routine. Scientific knowledge is always evolving, and what works for one person may not work for another. Alright, let's dive into the first itchy area that can hold a surprising amount of information: your lower legs and ankles. Now I know it sounds so ordinary. You might even be thinking, isn't that just dry skin? And sometimes, yes, it is, especially during the colder months, or if you're like my friend Carol, who insists on those long, hot showers that feel amazing but strip away every bit of moisture from her skin. But when that itch becomes chronic, meaning it keeps coming back, even when you've moisturized and changed soaps, it could be something deeper. For instance, persistent itching on the lower legs has been linked to poor circulation, a common issue as we get older. A study published in the Journal of Dermatological Treatment found that individuals over 60 who experienced frequent lower leg itching were more likely to show signs of peripheral artery disease, PAD. PAD happens when blood flow to your limbs is reduced, often due to narrowed arteries. The skin may become dry and itchy, and you might also notice changes in color or even hair loss on your legs. I had an uncle who experienced this exact thing. He just thought his socks were irritating him, but when his doctor ran some tests, it turned out he had early-stage PAD. They were able to manage it through lifestyle changes and medication, and he's doing great now. But that little itch, it was his first warning. So if you notice persistent itching on your lower legs, especially if it comes with numbness, tingling, or swelling, don't ignore it. Talk to your doctor and see if it might be connected to your circulation. Now let's move to another spot you might not think twice about: your scalp. Okay, I know a lot of us deal with an itchy scalp now, and then dry skin, dandruff, maybe a shampoo that doesn't quite agree with us. But if your scalp is constantly itchy, and there's no visible dandruff, no rash, and no change in your hair products, it might be something else entirely. Believe it or not, chronic scalp itching, without any rash, can sometimes be an early sign of a neurological condition. Researchers from the British Journal of Dermatology have explored cases where patients reported persistent itching of the scalp, which was later connected to nerve damage or even conditions like multiple sclerosis or post-herpetic neuralgia after a shingles outbreak. Now don't panic if your head is itching right now. Again, most of the time, it's something simple. But if it lasts for weeks, or if it's paired with other symptoms like burning, tingling, or even hair thinning, it's worth getting checked out. There's also an interesting link between chronic itching and liver health. The scalp, being rich in nerve endings, is one of the areas where systemic itching, caused by things like bile salt buildup in the blood, can show up. According to a 2022 report from the Cleveland Clinic, liver issues like cholestasis can lead to itching without a rash, and it often starts in places like the palms, soles, or scalp. So again, it's not about panicking, it's about listening to your body and knowing when something feels off. Speaking of listening to your body, let me tell you a quick story. There's a woman I met at a community wellness talk a few years ago. Her name's Doreen. She's 68, full of energy, walks every morning, eats her greens. But she came up to me afterward and said, "I've had this strange itch on my upper back, right between my shoulder blades. It's been there for months." Well, turns out that's a very specific and fairly well-known condition called brachioradial pruritus. It's a fancy name, but it basically comes down to nerve irritation, often caused by cervical spine issues. It's surprisingly common in older adults, especially women. And sometimes it's linked to degenerative disc disease or even early signs of arthritis in the neck. Sure enough, when Doreen got it checked out, her doctor ordered an MRI, and they found she had some compression in her upper spine. They caught it early. She did physical therapy, changed a few things about how she sleeps, and that itch finally went away. See, that itch was her messenger. And once she listened, it helped her avoid bigger problems down the road. So if you're dealing with a mysterious itch on your back or shoulders, especially if it feels deep or comes with numbness or tingling, it might not be a skin problem at all. It might be your nerves asking for attention. Now that we've covered these first signs, I want you to take a moment to think. Have you had any of these kinds of itching? Or know someone who has? It's amazing what we start to notice when we pay closer attention. And here's the exciting part. We're just getting started. Because up next, we're going to explore even more surprising places on your body where itching could be a warning sign, including one that's often overlooked, but could be connected to serious kidney issues. So don't go anywhere. Let's keep going, because this next one might really surprise you. So where were we? Oh yes, that next surprising itchy spot that people often overlook, and yet it can be connected to something as serious as kidney issues. Let's talk about the arms, especially the forearms. Now, if you're someone who's always outdoors gardening, or if you've spent a lifetime working with your hands, you might chalk up itching here to sun exposure or dry skin. And sure, sometimes that's exactly what it is. But when it becomes more intense, especially at night, and there's no rash or visible irritation, it might be time to take a closer look. Here's why. Chronic itching on the arms, particularly on both sides, and especially in people over 60, has been associated with uremic pruritus, a condition often seen in people with chronic kidney disease. In fact, a 2021 study from the American Journal of Nephrology found that nearly 40% of people with late-stage kidney issues experience persistent itching, and the arms and back are some of the most commonly affected areas. It's not fully understood why it happens, but it's believed to be related to the buildup of waste products in the bloodstream when the kidneys aren't functioning properly. Your skin, in a way, becomes a messenger, sending signals that something isn't quite right on the inside. A friend of mine, James, went through this a few years ago. He'd been noticing this strange itch on his arms that no lotion could fix. He even switched his laundry detergent 3 times. But eventually his doctor ran some blood work, and sure enough, his kidney function numbers were off. The good news? He caught it early. With a change in medication, a new hydration routine, and some help from a renal dietitian, things started turning around. That's why it's so important not to ignore persistent, unexplained itching, especially in places like the arms where you might not think twice. And speaking of places you don't expect, let's move to another one that often catches people off guard: the palms of your hands. Now this one might surprise you. Itching in the palms, especially if it's intense and doesn't go away, can sometimes be linked to liver function issues, particularly something called cholestasis. Cholestasis happens when the flow of bile from your liver is reduced or blocked, and one of the most common symptoms is intense itching without a rash. It sounds strange, I know. I mean, why the hands? But the palms and soles of the feet are actually 2 of the areas where this kind of internal imbalance often shows up first. It's like your body knows these parts are always in contact with the world, so it uses them to get your attention. There's even research from the Journal of Hepatology that found up to 80% of people with cholestatic liver diseases experience itching, sometimes for months before any other symptoms show up. Now again, this doesn't mean that every itchy palm is a sign of liver disease. But if you notice it's happening a lot, or if it wakes you up at night, or it comes with other changes like fatigue, dark urine, or yellowing of the eyes or skin, definitely bring it up with your doctor. I know someone who went through this exact thing. Her name's Linda, and she's one of the most energetic people I know. Always baking, always volunteering at the local senior center. But she started noticing this crazy itching in her palms that just wouldn't quit. At first, she thought it was from the dish soap she used or all the baking she did. But when it persisted for weeks, her doctor ran a liver panel, and it turned out she had early-stage primary biliary cholangitis, an autoimmune liver condition. She's doing great now, but she always says, "It was my hands that told me something wasn't right." It's just one more reminder that your body is wise. It's always talking to you. We just have to learn how to listen. Now, the next itchy spot I want to talk about is one that's easy to dismiss because it's a little awkward to talk about. But it's important, especially after 60. And that's itching around the anal area or lower buttocks. Before you cringe or laugh, hang on. This is actually one of the most common areas where people experience persistent itching, especially as we get older. Sometimes it's due to simple things like hygiene, diet, or hemorrhoids, but other times it could be a sign of something more serious like colorectal issues, including polyps or even early signs of cancer. In fact, the Colorectal Cancer Alliance has raised awareness that unusual itching or irritation in this area, especially when combined with bleeding or a change in bowel habits, should never be ignored. Now I get it. This is the kind of symptom people feel embarrassed to talk about. But it's your health, and nothing should feel too awkward when it comes to protecting your body. Let me tell you about Marvin. He's a 70-year-old grandpa of 5, plays bocce ball every Saturday, and makes a mean pot of chili. He started noticing some itching and irritation that he couldn't shake, and at first he brushed it off. But eventually, his wife convinced him to talk to his doctor. Long story short, they found early-stage polyps during a routine colonoscopy, and they were able to remove them before they became a serious issue. He always jokes now that his itch might have saved his life. The bottom line? Don't let embarrassment keep you from paying attention. It could be one of the most important decisions you make. So let's take a step back for a second. We've talked about the legs and circulation, the scalp and nerves, the arms and kidneys, the palms and liver, and yes, even the rear end and digestive health. Each of these spots might seem minor on their own, but together, they form a powerful message from your body. And the older we get, the more important it becomes to check in with these signals instead of brushing them off. You might be thinking, but isn't this just a normal part of getting older? And sure, some changes are part of the aging process. But there's a huge difference between normal aging and your body waving a little red flag saying, "Hey, something's off." And here's something really encouraging. Most of these issues, if caught early, are highly manageable. You don't need to live in fear. You just need to stay curious, stay proactive, and stay kind to yourself. So now that we've explored these itchy warning signs, what comes next? Well, in the next part of this video, we're going to get into something even more powerful. How your mindset, movement, and everyday choices can help you not only catch problems early but prevent them before they start. We'll also talk about how to stay motivated to take action, even when aging throws us a few curveballs. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed, tired, or just unsure about where to start, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Let's keep going, because this next part might just be the inspiration you've been looking for. Before we jump in, just a quick reminder. If you're enjoying this so far and want more simple, science-backed tips to stay healthy as you age, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We share helpful videos just like this every week, and we'd love to have you along for the journey. Alright, let's talk about something that often gets left out when we talk about health after 60. We've covered the physical signs like itching and what they might mean. But what about the why behind taking action? What about the motivation to actually follow through when your body feels tired, or when you're juggling doctor appointments, or trying to stay positive in the face of real health challenges? Let me tell you, this is something a lot of people struggle with, and it's totally normal. Aging isn't always easy. There are aches, slower mornings, days when your energy just isn't there. But here's what I've learned after talking with so many people in their 60s, 70s, even 90s. It's not about having perfect health. It's about learning how to work with your body, not against it. Take Paul, for example. He's someone I met at a community wellness class a few years ago. He didn't start strength training until he was 72. Before that, he believed what so many people do. I'm too old to start now. That ship has sailed. But he decided to give it a try. Just 10 minutes a day, using light resistance bands at first. And you know what happened? Within a few months, he had more energy, less joint pain, and way better balance. One day he told me, "I feel 10 years younger. I wish I'd started sooner." That's the thing, science backs this up. A study from Johns Hopkins University found that even adding just 10 extra minutes of movement a day, whether it's walking, stretching, or lifting light weights, can significantly improve longevity and reduce the risk of chronic disease. It doesn't need to be fancy. You don't need a gym membership. Just movement every day in a way that feels good for you. And speaking of things that feel good, let's talk about mindset. Aging can feel like a series of losses sometimes. Loss of independence, loss of routines, even friends and loved ones. But one of the most powerful things you can do for your health has nothing to do with your body, and everything to do with how you think. A long-term study by Yale researcher Dr. Becca Levy found that people with a positive view of aging lived an average of 7.5 years longer than those with a more negative view. Not because they were luckier, not because they had better genes, but because mindset affects how we treat ourselves. It affects how we eat, how we move, how we connect. It's kind of amazing when you think about it, how simply believing that life can still be full and vibrant after 60 can actually help make it true. And that leads us to one of the most underrated parts of healthy aging, connection. I'll be honest, this one hits close to home. My grandfather lived to be 93. And even in his last few years, what kept him going wasn't his medication or his diet. It was his daily lunch group at the senior center. That little group of friends gave him laughter, purpose, and joy. Even when his body slowed down, his spirit didn't. Research from Harvard's 80-year-long study on adult development shows that social connection is one of the most powerful predictors of long life and good health. In fact, it can be as important as not smoking or maintaining a healthy weight. That's huge. So if you felt isolated lately, or like your world has gotten smaller, it's not too late to rebuild that connection. Reach out to an old friend. Join a local class. Volunteer. Even a weekly phone call with someone you care about can make a difference. Now let's circle back for a moment to one more important area, daily habits. Because no matter how old we are, our routines still shape our results. You might be wondering, where do I even start? And I get it. Life can feel overwhelming, especially when you've got health concerns, or you're caring for someone else, or you're dealing with energy dips. So let's break it down into something simple, just one small promise to yourself each day. Maybe that promise is, I will walk to the mailbox and back twice. Maybe it's, I will drink a full glass of water before my morning coffee. Or, I will write down 3 things I'm grateful for every night. These tiny actions build momentum, and momentum builds confidence. Before you know it, you're not just managing aging, you're mastering it. I want you to know something important right now. If you've been feeling behind or frustrated that your body isn't what it used to be, or unsure if it's too late to make a change, I want you to hear this. It's not too late. Not even close. The body is incredibly adaptable. The mind is beautifully resilient. And even one small change can set off a chain reaction that leads to better sleep, more energy, a sharper mind, and yes, fewer aches, fewer itches, and a stronger sense of purpose. And listen, I get that there will be tough days. Days when your knees ache, or when the news feels heavy, or when it feels easier to stay still than to move. But you are not alone in this. Every time you choose to take care of yourself, by noticing a symptom, by moving your body, by reaching out to someone, by believing that health is still possible, you're rewriting the story of what aging looks like. And I think that's one of the most powerful things we can do, not just for ourselves, but for the people who love us, the communities we're part of, and the younger generations who are watching. So now that you have these tools, insight into those little itchy warning signs, motivation to take action, real-life stories of people who made a change, it's time to wrap things up with one final piece of encouragement and a simple challenge to get you started right away. Coming up next, we'll bring everything together with a reminder of the most important takeaways, plus one easy step you can take today to begin feeling better and building momentum, no matter where you're starting from. Let's finish strong. You've made it this far, and I just want to take a moment to say how proud I am of you. Seriously, Not everyone takes the time to learn about their health, to listen deeply to their body, and to look for real answers. But here you are, still with me, and that says something powerful about you. You're not giving up on your health. You're leaning into it. Let's take a moment to look back at what we've uncovered today. Who would have thought that something as simple and annoying as an itch could be a messenger from your body? Whether it's the legs hinting at circulation issues, the scalp whispering about nerve health, the arms waving a red flag about kidney function, the palms calling out for liver support, or even the more private itches that might be tied to digestive health, we now know that these signals are not random. They're not just old age. They're part of your body's internal language. And when we pay attention to them with curiosity instead of fear, we give ourselves the chance to catch things early, take action, and prevent them from turning into something more serious. But here's the part that really matters. Knowing is only the first step. It's what you do with that knowledge that counts. And the truth is, even small daily choices can lead to powerful changes. Aging doesn't mean giving up. It means stepping up in a smarter, more intentional way. I want to leave you with one final story that stuck with me over the years. A woman named Denise wrote in after one of our wellness talks. She was 68 at the time, dealing with fatigue, brain fog, and these random itches on her back and arms that drove her crazy. She felt like her body was slipping away from her, and she didn't know where to start. But instead of diving into a million changes at once, she did something beautifully simple. She made one small promise to herself. She decided she'd drink more water, get sunlight in the morning, and start tracking her symptoms in a little notebook. That was it. Within 2 weeks, she noticed patterns in when her itching flared up. Turns out, it was often right after eating certain processed foods and sitting too long. She talked to her doctor, adjusted her routine, and slowly added in more movement and anti-inflammatory foods. 3 months later, she felt like a different person. Her energy was back. Her skin calmed down. She said, "I didn't just learn how to treat the itch, I learned how to trust my body again." And isn't that what we're all looking for? To feel like we're in charge again. To believe that our best days aren't behind us, they're still possible. Maybe even right in front of us. And look, this isn't about chasing youth. It's about embracing wisdom. It's about living well right now with what you have, because what you have is still incredibly valuable. So here's your challenge. Just one small thing. Pick one area of your daily routine and make a gentle, loving change. Maybe it's switching to a fragrance-free lotion and noting if that calms any unexplained itching. Maybe it's setting a timer to remind you to get up and stretch every hour. Or maybe it's finally scheduling that doctor's visit you've been putting off because something just doesn't feel right. Whatever it is, do it not from fear, but from love, from care, from belief that you're still worth showing up for every single day. Because you are. And if you're thinking, but will it really make a difference? Here's a final bit of science that might help. Dr. Michael Greger, a well-known physician and researcher, has highlighted that up to 80% of chronic diseases, yes, 80%, may be prevented or even reversed with diet and lifestyle changes. Things like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and even some forms of cancer. That's not just hopeful. That's empowering. It means that you have more control than you might think. And your body, no matter how old it is still capable of healing, growing, and surprising you. So let's wrap this up with something simple but powerful. You are not broken. You are not too old. You are not out of options. You're just getting started. And we are here to walk with you every step of the way. If this video spoke to you, if even one thing made you pause and say, maybe that applies to me, we'd really love to hear from you. What did you learn? What do you want to explore more? What's something you've been curious about that we can cover next? Drop your questions, experiences, or even a simple hello in the comments below. Your voice matters here. And you never know, your question might just be the one that inspires our next video. And hey, if you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. We're building a community here where aging is not something to dread, but something to embrace with strength, knowledge, and heart. Because you deserve to feel good. You deserve to feel strong. And most of all, you deserve to know that your health is still in your hands. So here's to listening more closely, loving yourself more fiercely, and living your best life at any age. We'll see you in the next one.